At Thanksgiving dinner, my son threw his fork and said, "Dad says you are just the help." I left quietly. That night my husband texted, "Know your place." I replied, "Check your mortgage." By dawn, the bank would be calling. "My name is Darcy Llewellyn. I am 61. Thanksgiving at my sister-in-law's house had always been loud, the kind of loud that came from people trying too hard to look like a happy family. I had learned to move through it without drawing attention, refilling glasses, passing dishes, making sure nothing spilled. It was easier than joining their conversations, easier than interrupting Grant's constant need to perform for his parents. I had just set a bowl of mashed potatoes on the table when something struck my shoulder. A fork. It bounced off my arm and clattered against my plate. Liam sat across from me, his small hand still half raised. His eyes narrowed in a way that did not belong to an 8-year-old boy. "Dad says you are just the help," he said clearly, loudly, like he was repeating a line he had practiced. The room froze. For a breath, no one made a sound. Then the laughter started. Grant's mother covered her mouth, shaking. His brother slapped the table. Someone farther down the line snorted into their wine. Even Grant smiled as he reached for the gravy boat, as if the comment was harmless, as if it were normal for a child to humiliate his own mother. I felt the warmth leave my hands first, then my face, then the rest of me. I folded my napkin slowly, keeping my movements small, quiet, controlled. "Darcy, sit," Grant murmured, still smiling. Liam is joking. But Liam was not joking. He was watching me, waiting to see if the line he had delivered had landed the way he thought it should. And in his eyes, I saw it the same dismissive certainty I had spent years absorbing from his father. I pushed my chair back. "Where are you going?" Grant's mother asked, her voice still thick with laughter. "I need some air." I walked to the hallway, took my coat from the hook, and stepped outside. The November cold met me like a slap, sharp enough to keep me upright. Inside, the laughter swelled again, muffled by the closed door. I stood on the porch for a moment, letting the cold settle into my bones. Then I walked to my car and started the engine, already knowing that whatever waited at home would not be silence. It would be Grant, and his version of the truth. The house was still glowing behind me when I pulled into our driveway. I turned off the engine and sat there, hands on the steering wheel, letting the quiet settle. My phone buzzed before I even stepped inside. "Grant, you embarrassed us tonight." Another buzz. "Grant, you need to learn your place." I stared at the screen. My fingers didn't move. He texted again. "Grant, don't make a scene when you get home. Liam is upset." Upset. The child who threw a fork at me. I walked inside. The living room was dark except for the soft blue light from the television. Grant sat on the couch with one leg stretched out, as if this were any other night. "You left without saying anything," he said, not looking up. "I needed space." "You always need something." His voice carried that familiar, practiced disappointment. "You could have laughed it off. Instead, you stormed out and made everyone uncomfortable." "I didn't storm out. You did." He finally turned to me. "God, Darcy, it was a joke." Liam didn't sound like he was joking. "That's because you can't take anything lightly." He leaned back. "You make it hard to defend you." "I didn't ask you to defend me." "You don't have to. I'm already cleaning up the mess." He flicked his hand, dismissive. "Mom's calling tomorrow. You should apologize to her. For what? For leaving, for ruining the mood, for making Liam look bad." He threw a fork at me. "Grant, he's a kid. Kids do stupid things." I felt something inside me settle quiet, heavy, final. "I'm going downstairs," I said. Grant didn't look away from the TV. "Do whatever you want. Just don't start another drama tomorrow. We've had enough of that for one night." I stepped into the hallway, the phone still warm in my hand, his message glowing in the dark. "Know your place." I closed the basement door gently behind me. already knowing I wasn't going to live in the place he thought I belonged to. I closed the basement door behind me and let the silence fall. Thick and familiar. Down here, Grant never followed. He always said the office felt too cramped, which was fine with me. I liked the smallness. It reminded me that not everything in this house belonged to him. I sat at my desk, the lamp still where I'd left it that morning. My phone buzzed again, but I placed it face down. I didn't need more of Grant's explanations, excuses, or instructions. For a long moment, I just sat there. My hands were steady in a way my mind wasn't. Then I reached for the bottom drawer. It was locked. It had been locked for 4 years. I pulled the small key from the ceramic dish beside my monitor. My fingers hesitated only once before turning it. The drawer slid open with a soft scrape. Inside lay a thick folder labeled in my own handwriting, Llewellyn Property, Private Mortgage. I placed it on the desk and opened it. The papers inside were orderly, each page clipped, dated, and highlighted. I wasn't a naturally organized person, but that year had changed me. 4 years ago, Grant had come home pale and shaking. His business, his pride. His identity was collapsing. A lawsuit. Debt he'd hidden. Credit ruined beyond repair. Every bank laughed him out of the room, and he begged me not to tell his parents. "Just help me this once," he'd said. "It's embarrassing." You know how they are. I had agreed. I had told myself it was the right thing to do, the supportive thing, the wife thing. I had taken the inheritance my aunt left me, $385,000, and bought the house outright. Then I created a private mortgage agreement so Grant could buy it back through monthly payments. He'd praised me then, held my hands, and said he didn't deserve someone as loyal as me. He'd promised he would never forget it, but he had. Or maybe he'd chosen to forget. I flipped to the page with the original deed. There it was, clear and printed in bold type. Buyer Darcy Llewellyn. Seller Maple Summit Realty. Owner of record Darcy Llewellyn. My signature. And no one else's. Grant wasn't listed. Not as co-owner. Not as co-signer. Not as anything. Yet for years, he'd stood in front of his family and bragged about his house, about how hard he worked for it, about how I should be grateful he provided stability. I traced my finger along my signature. If I was just the help, then why was I the only one on the deed? I kept turning the pages. Steady but slow, until I reached the payment ledger. The dates were lined up neatly. Every month accounted for until they were not. Grant had missed one payment in late spring, then another in midsummer, then 3 in a row this fall. I counted carefully, 53 days late. My chest tightened, not from panic, but from clarity. The numbers didn't lie. Even if Grant always did. I flipped to the page I had hoped never to need. The clause I had highlighted 4 years ago with a trembling hand. Acceleration clause. If the borrower is more than 30 days delinquent, the lender has the right to declare the entire remaining balance due immediately and initiate foreclosure proceedings. My finger rested on the sentence. Pressing lightly, I remembered drafting it with Ayla Hastings, the attorney who had guided me through the entire process. She'd been gentle then, asking, "Are you sure you want this provision?" I'd whispered yes. I'd known even then that I needed a safety valve, not against the bank, against the man I lived with. My phone buzzed again upstairs, a faint vibration through the floorboards. I didn't look at it. I didn't want another apology shaped like an accusation. Instead, I pulled my laptop closer and opened my email. A blank message stared back at me. To Ayla Hastings. Subject urgent. Llewellyn Mortgage. My hands hovered over the keyboard. For a moment, I felt something almost like grief. Not for Grant, but for the version of myself who had believed him when he said he'd never forget what I'd done. I typed, Ayla. The borrower is 53 days past due, per the acceleration clause. I want to call the remaining balance immediately and begin preparing the notice of default. I read it twice. Every word was true. I hit send. The reply came faster than I expected. Barely 3 minutes later. Darcy, I can prepare the documents tonight. They'll be ready for signature by morning. Are you certain about moving forward? It's a serious step. I stared at her question. Certainty wasn't the right word. It was something quieter, older. The feeling you get when a door has been closed for so long that opening it becomes the only way to breathe. I typed back. Yes, proceed. The cursor blinked. My message went through, and the weight that settled inside me wasn't fear, it was resolve. They had all thought I was quiet because I was weak. They had never imagined I was quiet because I was the one holding the paper that could end everything. I woke before sunrise. Not because I'd slept lightly, but because Ayla's email notification chimed at 5:47 in the morning. Documents ready. Courier will deliver at 9. I sat up slowly. The house was silent. Grant never woke before 7. His calm before the storm. At 6:15, everything changed. The first call came from a number I recognized the loan officer Ayla used at a small credit union in Northeast Portland. It rang twice before Grant answered in the bedroom. What? His voice was thick with sleep. That's impossible. Our mortgage is current. We don't even have anything with your office. A pause. Sharp. Sudden. What do you mean, private mortgage? Who the hell? Another pause. No. There's a mistake. My wife doesn't handle finances like that. I stood in the hallway, listening, not hiding. Grant stormed out of the bedroom, phone still pressed to his ear. When he saw me, his face twisted. You did something. I enforced the contract. What contract? I pay the bank. You pay me, I said quietly. Or you were supposed to. He froze. I watched the exact moment confusion became fear. The phone crackled. Grant snapped, I'll call you back, and hung up. What have you done? He hissed. What I'm allowed to do. He stepped closer. Darcy, you don't get it. My parents can't hear about this. My brother can't hear about this. You're going to make me look I'm not responsible for how you look. Grant. He stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Then the second call came his mother. The phone practically vibrated off the counter. He answered it on speaker by accident. Grant, what is this nonsense? The bank says your mortgage is defaulted. Did she do something? She's always dramatic. I spoke before he could. I didn't do anything except expect payments on time. His mother sucked in a breath. Darcy, don't start. You caused enough trouble last night. Grant scrambled. Turning off speaker, I walked past him to the kitchen table. Another call buzzed. His father this time. Then his brother. Then a cousin. Grant's world was cracking open. And he couldn't stop it. He slammed his phone down. Fix this. I'm not fixing anything. A notice of default goes out this morning. You can't do this to me. He said, voice cracking. Grant, I said softly, I didn't do anything to you. You did it by ignoring 53 days of payments. His breath came fast. Uneven. Rage. Panic. The same cycle he'd used for years, but now it faltered. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands didn't shake. Grant backed up like he didn't recognize me. What are you turning into? I'm turning into someone who follows the terms you agreed to. He sank into a chair, running both hands through his hair. For the first time in years, he looked small, and the morning was only beginning. By late morning, Ayla called and asked me to join a conference line. Grant had already insisted on involving an attorney of his own, a man named Carter Reeves, someone he used years ago when his business was still pretending to stand on two legs. I put my phone on the table and answered, with a steady breath. Ayla spoke first. Both parties are present. We can begin. Carter cleared his throat. Darcy, Grant tells me this was all a misunderstanding. He's prepared to make a partial payment to show good faith. Grant jumped in, voice tight. We can pay $5,000 today, then resume the regular payments next month. Ayla didn't respond. She waited for me. I spoke calmly. You owe 4 months, 53 days past due. $5,000 isn't even close. Grant's voice cracked. We're trying, Darcy. You weren't trying when the reminders came, I said. You weren't trying when the payment skipped. You weren't trying last night when Liam threw a fork at me and you laughed. Carter shifted. This doesn't have to get personal. It already is, I said. Because the house is personal. The way I've been treated is personal. And the agreement was personal long before it was legal. Grant swallowed hard. Darcy, we can figure something out, please. Ayla cut in gently. Darcy has the legal right to demand the full amount immediately. I know, Grant muttered, but it's cruel. I looked at the papers in front of me. Cruel was watching my son learn to speak to me the way you do. Cruel was you telling your family I don't contribute. Cruel was hearing you tell Liam I'm just the help when I'm the one who bought the house you brag about. Grant's breath hitched. I never meant... You meant enough of it for him to believe it. Silence filled the line. Long and heavy. Carter finally asked, What are your terms? Darcy. I didn't hesitate. A new contract, higher payments, automatic reminders, no refinancing option at the 5-year mark, and everything in writing. Grant whispered, You're punishing me. I'm protecting myself. I said, For the first time in a long time, Ayla spoke softly. I'll draft the modification. Grant didn't argue. He only whispered, barely audible. What happens now, I didn't answer right away. I wasn't choosing his future anymore. I was choosing mine. I ended the call with Ayla and Carter and sat still for a moment, letting the quiet return. It didn't last long. Light footsteps crept down the stairs, soft, hesitant. Liam stopped at the bottom step, holding the railing like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to come closer. Mom. His voice was small. I turned in my chair. You're up early. I heard you talking, he whispered. About the house? I waited. Dad said it was his. He continued, eyes lowering. But you said you bought it. I did, I said gently. 4 years ago. He swallowed, processing. So he lied. I didn't answer that directly. Answer that. Sometimes adults say things because they're scared or ashamed. It doesn't make it right. Liam stepped closer. Did you buy it because Dad messed up? The question cut deeper than he knew. Yes, he nodded slowly. I heard him and Grandma talking. They said you don't do anything. They said you just help. My breath softened. How long have you been hearing that? A long time, he murmured. I thought it was true. I thought, if they said it, then I should say it too. I opened my arms. He walked into them without hesitation. I'm sorry I threw the fork. He whispered into my shoulder. I'm sorry I said those things. I didn't know they were lies. I held him tighter. It hurt. But you're learning now. That's what matters. He pulled back a little. Are we going to lose the house? No. I said firmly. Not if I'm the one handling things. His face eased, but the shame lingered. Dad's mad. Grandma too. They said you're ruining everything. I'm not ruining anything. I said, I'm fixing what should have been fixed a long time ago. Liam nodded against my side. And for the first time in days, my chest loosened. He wasn't repeating Grant's voice anymore. He was listening to mine. Ayla arrived just after lunch with a slim folder and a steady expression. Grant hovered near the dining table, arms crossed, pacing in short, panicked lines. He looked like a man trapped in a room he had built himself. Ayla placed the documents down. This is the revised loan agreement. Higher monthly payments. No refinancing at the 5-year mark. Automatic reminders. And a clause confirming Darcy's full ownership until the balance is paid. Grant's jaw tightened. You're doing this to humiliate me. I sat across from him. I'm doing this to protect myself. His fingers twitched at his sides. We can talk about this. Privately. We're talking now, I said, and we're doing it with everything written down. Ayla slid a pen toward him. You'll need to sign each page. Grant didn't touch it. Darcy, please. This isn't who you are. I looked at Liam, who stood in the doorway watching us with careful eyes, listening the way children do when they're trying to understand the adults shaping their world. This is exactly who I am, I said. I'm the person who bought this house when you couldn't. I'm the person who gave you 4 years to stand on your feet. I'm the person you and your family dismissed because it was easier than admitting the truth. He flinched. I never meant you did, I said quietly. And Liam copied you. That's why this stops today. Silence stretched. Thick and unavoidable. Ayla tapped the folder once. Grant. Refusing to sign doesn't help you. It only speeds up foreclosure. His breathing stuttered. Then, slowly, he reached for the pen. He signed, page after page, each signature smaller than the last. When he finished, he pushed the folder away. Is this what you want to win? It's not about winning, I said. It's about knowing my place. And it isn't under your thumb. For the first time in a long time, the room was mine. My voice was mine. My future was mine. Grant stood, defeated, and walked upstairs. Liam slipped his hand into mine without a word. I squeezed it gently. I opened my laptop, ready to send Ayla the final confirmation, and spoke softly. Not to Grant this time, but to the readers, the watchers, the listeners who know what this moment means. If this story feels familiar, share it, leave a comment, or follow for more. No one deserves to be treated like just the help. Once I knew my place, no one could ever put me back in the one they built for me.